Hello, welcome to Motorhome Talk. I'm Mike and I like to talk about motorhomes. Today I'm going to give you a little summary of some events that happened in the past videos and give you a little update about them. The first is, you remember I put the Acuva 2.0 water system, LED water system in my motorhome. My motorhome again is a 2019 NEWMAR NEWAIR. And my son-in-law and I put it in and everything looked good, yet when we went to turn on the faucet light at the base did not light up like it should have, and the faucet itself had a very small drip. So I was concerned and I contacted Acuva, and after 2 emails and a phone call, they did write me back and they wanted to get more information about exactly what was going on with the faucet. So I was about to send that to them when I got another email from them basically saying that they had decided that they were going to replace my whole unit and just fill out the paperwork and send it back to them. So I was very impressed by that. I thought they'd just change the faucet out, but instead they were going to change the whole unit. However, I declined to take the new unit, but I just wanted to pass on that information that Acuva really did stand behind their product. So I thought that would be helpful for other people to know in case they decide to put such a unit in their motorhome. The next thing that I want to talk about is, if you remember when my son-in-law and I picked the wall in the NEWMAR, the one we picked was a little thin. So we bolstered up when we attached the Acuva to the wall with another small piece of wood. However, the whole panel was weak, and my son-in-law thought it should be fortified, which he did do. I can't show you exactly what he did, but I can point out when we go underneath the sink to show you where he ran a board. He ran a nice board, thick board, right along the length of the wall, and then stapled it in, and I'll show you where the staples run. But that really did fortify the wall if anyone decides to use that wall in whatever motorhome they have, or if they have a similar wall, or if they have a NEWMAR and it's similar. The other thing that my son-in-law and I noticed when we were underneath the sink is that the NEWAIR, or at least our NEWAIR, has 2 smaller walls that basically prevent items that are under the sink from falling into back where the plumbing is. However, we found they were extremely thin. I mean, we're talking wafer thin. So we were trying to come up with an idea on how to bolster them. And he was thinking of a frame, but that was getting a little too involved. So we came up with a pretty unique angled system with some wood, and I'll show you that right now. So come on with me, and I'll show you the angled system that he used. This was the very thin wall that prevents items from falling back in there. And this was, like I said, paper thin, and it was attached with like 2 little tiny staples. So he put this in here, bolstered it with nails, and now it's solid. And you can see he did the same thing to the back board. So that little bit of fortification really mattered. Then on this side over here, you'll see that the staples that he used, and that's where the board ran across that really, really thin wall. So that was our answer to those 2 problems, and if you have a similar situation, hopefully that will help. The third thing that I want to update you on is, if you remember, I did have a situation, considering we just got into full timing in the motorhome. When we traveled before, we traveled from one place to another place where we had a house, and we never really used the slide outs. So now that we're full timing, we use the slide outs often. And we found that the slide out behind the driver's seat had a leak. So we're planning on going to Disney with my granddaughter soon. And we wanted to get that leak fixed. So we went up to NEWMAR right before Christmas to have the leak fixed. And they fixed it, and we thought everything was fine. Came back down, there was a couple of rainstorms, and I didn't really check after the first rainstorm or so, because I figured they said they checked it and they were going to water test it, and I figured, heck, it's got to be right. Well, then they had a really bad rainstorm down here, and I said, you know, let me just put my hand up over this thing, because I can't see up high. It's above the television set, and the opening is very small, so all I can do is put my hand back there. Before, it was dripping down, and it wasn't dripping down now, so I figured I was safe. But I said I better just double check. So I put my hand up there, and lo and behold, there was a significant amount of water. It was like a little lake sitting up there. So my wife and I got towels and we patted it down, and then of course had to bring in the slide every time it rains. I did call NEWMAR, and the earliest they could get me in was the end of February. So we made an appointment the end of February, and I'll keep you updated on that. But I just wanted to pass on that if you go somewhere for service, even if it's to the factory, you may want to just double check to make sure it does happen to you, because going back to the factory gets things fixed right usually, but it's usually an involved process of not only making the appointment, but traveling back there. So that's the three things that I wanted to share with you today. Oh, we have a question from my photographer.
I wanted to mention that when we bought this used RV, the people who purchased it originally had the factory tour, which usually settles out all the little bugs that should have been fixed. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I do. That's a good point. NEWMAR, when you buy a new NEWMAR, it's the only business where you produce a product and you expect it to be quality control like cars. But in the production, from what I've found, at least, or what I've read, because I not only like to talk about motorhomes, I like to read about motorhomes a lot. I found that the production motorhomes sometimes produce them, and they have okay quality, but then they basically send them right out to the dealer, and anything that they didn't get around to fixing, the dealer fixed. Well, you hope you got a good dealer, because some of the stuff can be a little involved. But NEWMAR, and maybe the other companies do too, have a process where you basically can pay extra money and have what's called a factory delivery, where you basically go to the factory and pick up your motorhome. However, prior to that, the techs spend, I think it's almost like 2 weeks or something going through it, maybe 3 weeks, and they go through supposedly every process so that it works. And for that process, it costs you about $7,000 on top of spending for a new motorhome. That's kind of a unusual system where the producer of a product gets to charge you more to come up to make sure that it was done right. So and the people, as my wife pointed out, that we bought this motorhome, but we bought it from a dealer. But you saw that this was a factory delivery, which basically means these people paid that amount of money to have everything go through. And if they found stuff, I would have hated to see what would have happened if they didn't pay for that, because there were lots of little things when we bought the motorhome that definitely were missed. And the slide out, it was the first time they fixed it, the tech said it was definitely a large area where the framing didn't meet. It was a gap, and he ended up cutting and redoing stuff, and so I figured he had it done. But I will go back and see what happens. But I just thought I'd pass that on, that we're going back, and it's a good idea to double check, even if you're going to get service at the factory. I'll keep you updated, and hopefully this will be the last you hear about that, and I'll say it's a good deal. Well, that's all I'm going to talk about today. I have some other things coming up in future videos, but we'll talk about that later. Thanks again for joining me on Motorhome Talk. Bye.
Bye-bye.